Hello, everyone, and welcome to EduMatch. So follow along with us on Twitter with the hashtag EduMatch, as well as our YouTube live page at podcast.edumatch.org/tweet talk. So speaking of EduMatch, did you know you could be the featured person of the day? Sign up on our website at edumatch.org. On the top right corner, it's going to say sign up and you can be our featured person of the day. There's a little bit of a wait, but during that time, we will tag you with any matches that come up in the meantime. And thanks to Twitter's new enhanced character limit, then we can tag a whole lot more people. In addition, if you have a blog post and you drop that in the form, then if there is an RSS feed that we can find, we will tweet it out to our audience of over 20,000 educators. So definitely check that out. So tonight, we are going to be talking Hour of Code and coding. We have our awesome moderator with us, Irene, and we also have three amazing panelists. So I'm going to first have the panelists introduce themselves. So we will start first with Anjanette.
Hello, everybody. This is Anjanette Washington, live from sunny South Florida. I am a 24.5 educator, Broward County Schools. I have done Hour of Code for 4 straight years. I'm a representative of Black Girls Code Miami chapter. Shout out to Kimberly Bryant. And Broward County Schools is the 6th largest school district in the United States. And I'm a proud 5th grade teacher at Manatee Bay Elementary, proud adjunct professor at the University of Fort Lauderdale. Thank you. Good to be back.
Well, thank you, Anjanette. It's great to have you back on panel. So welcome back. All right, we're going to go next to Rachel, another familiar face.
Good evening, everybody. This is Rachel Pearson. I'm coming at you from southern Minnesota, where it's very nice out today. It's 46 degrees. Yeah. I'm currently a STEM teacher for grades K through 6 at a very small rural school here in southern Minnesota. I've been doing Hour of Code for a few years, probably 4 or 5, coming up on the upper range of the 10s. I don't know. It's been something that I've really enjoyed doing with my students, and I can't wait to have them do some more coding again.
Awesome. Well, welcome back to panel, Rachel. And also returning back to panel, we have Tara Linney.
Hi, all. I am Tara Linney, located in Singapore, which is in Asia. It's currently Monday morning at about 7:03 or something a.m. And I currently work at Singapore American School as an educational technology coach. Let's see, in the schools that I've been at throughout the world, I have participated, and we have participated in the Hour of Code since the launching of the Hour of Code. And I'm super excited to be on this panel today to talk more about how you can integrate that into your classroom.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us and for making this panel truly international. So welcome back, Tara. And without any further ado, I'm going to pass it over to our amazing moderator for tonight, Irene. So if you could please introduce yourself and then feel free to launch right into the first question.
Hi, everyone. I'm Irene Bell. I am a new transfer to Baltimore, Maryland from Columbia, South Carolina. I am a K-12 certified music teacher. I just actually got my Maryland certification 2 days ago. I'm very excited. I'm teaching at Loyola University, Maryland in the Educational Technology program here in Baltimore. And I've been doing Hour of Code for over 5 years at this point. I started in my elementary music classroom as a state mandate and started working with my teachers because I kind of did a tech role there. And then when I became an instructional technology coach, I continued helping teachers and started doing it school-wide. And we did a lot of unplugged because we weren't one-to-one. So I'm really excited about the panel. We have some great people, and they're gonna have a lot more knowledge than I will, I think. But if you're listening out there, we'd love to hear from you and hear like where you are, and if you want to do a shout out to your school, and if you've done Hour of Code before, we'd love to hear from you and find out more what you guys are doing out in Twitter and YouTube land. Our first question for this evening is, what is your favorite Hour of Code or coding activity? Who wants to take that away first?
I'll start. So I think one of my favorite Hour of Code activities for elementary in particular is the Frozen activity that the Hour of Code came out with a couple years ago when the Frozen movies was big. And that is because it incorporates so much more than just like coding and computational thinking. Like it's has the math integration with the angles, and it's just so great. And the students' ability to transfer that understanding into like curriculum understanding is super huge. This year I'm excited because having gone to Pi Academy over the summer, we're looking at ways to integrate Raspberry Pi and physical computing into the Hour of Code. And so I'm going to try out a couple of things with my girls coding club and see kind of what sticks.
I'm going to go. I'm actually excited. I like one of the unplugged activities where they actually create their name using the coding letters that they give. I actually took the course here in Broward County Schools, and I actually like the unplugged activity. Now, once I get on the computer, Angry Bird's always a winner for me. Love the Angry Bird.
I love that one too, Anjanette. So since I teach grades K through 6, I use different activities for my different grade levels. And so for my very little ones, working on code.org with the Frozen activity and some of the Angry Birds stuff, that hooks them right in. I especially like they have, excuse my cat, they have activities for even non-readers that they have symbols and arrows and things that they can use that don't require reading. I love using Codable and CodeSpark for my kind of still younger but kind of in the middle elementary grades. And then getting into like my 5th and 6th grade, we love using Scratch to start off doing some more advanced stuff as far as the elementary grades go. So those are just a handful of my favorite resources to use with elementary students.
And Tara, in Columbia, South Carolina, they have a technology center that does Hour of Code activities for homeschool students and for field trips. And I went and they had the Frozen, and it was first when Frozen came out, and it was hard. I couldn't figure it out. And then I learned you had to read the prompts to know what angles to use. I was struggling. I was like, this is not for 5th grade and up. Like, this is adult size. This is so hard.
Well, and what's really nice with Frozen too, like because there's female characters in it, people think like, oh, that's a girl activity. But honestly, when the boys do it too, it's like, whoa, I actually have to think. Like, this is just because it's like pretty doesn't mean that it's easy.
And Anna Jeanette, you talked about the students making their name. Were you talking about binary code?
Yes, I am talking about binary code. That I use that as an introduction activity, and then my 5th graders definitely like Angry Bird. They like level 2 activities. They love Scratch. They like lots of different things they'll get on, and they'll even introduce some resources to me. But I used a lot of times the Hour of Code unplugged activities to get them interested and started, and even do some interdisciplinary reading and writing activities before we actually go into the computer part.
So I do the Code Your Name with binary coding, and we take it to the next level and make beaded necklaces of our names. So this is my name in binary code right here. I use it as a lanyard for my keys. I took my keys off of it. And I do this, I actually have teachers do this as well. We conducted it at 3 of my schools through 3rd through 5th grade, all at one time last year. That was a bit of a overwhelming moment because it was 1,000 kids beating at one time for an hour. But it's a really cool, like, extended kind of maker activity. I like that you said that. I was like, I know.
Well, try coding my name binary. It's 13 letters, so it's a lengthy one. Very lengthy.
And when we did this, we made it a 5th grade project because we had to figure out how much string we needed, how many beads. The average name is about 8 letters. There's 8 beads per letter. We had to figure out how many students per school. It was all of a sudden a lot of math. And then we had to figure out how many buckets of beads the kids, we had to buy and how much money we had to spend to get, the kids had it. I think we had 50 beads left over at the end at each school. Like they had it on the dime. It was pretty incredible that they could do that. I really like the code.org. There's one, code.org came out with the older kids, the app maker. Have any of you guys used the app maker to create your own app in code.org or Hour of Code?
I'm not sure if it's the same one that you were talking about, but I've used the MIT App Inventor. Is that what you're talking about, or is it something different?
I think it's something, I don't know. It came out 2 years ago, and it wasn't very good, but now it's really good. But it's more 8th grade and up because it's kind of hard. It's very it's still block coding, but you really have to know what you want your app to do because it's a very free space. So it's less make the bird go or do, make the angle. It's more that here's an open space. What do you want your app to do? And the kids really have to think about what they want their app to do and then use the block coding to create that to happen. Okay. So there's more planning.
Yeah, I've done something similar with myself. I had a cohort of teachers that I met with over the year last year that we were learning different ways to code. And we used the MIT App Inventor, and we programmed an Android app where when you click the button of a picture of a cat, it would meow. I mean, it's very simple, but it was effective. I mean, obviously I remember it. So it was an effective activity where I could load it onto a phone, open the app, see the picture of the cat that I chose, tap the button, and it would make a noise. So that was pretty cool.
That's really cool. Okay, are we ready for the second question? Yes, Sarah's giving me the thumbs up. Our second question tonight is, do you go beyond the 1 hour of coding? And if so, what do you do to extend the learning?
Yes. So we've got a couple of things like for going beyond. Number one, I don't know if anybody's heard of Dash and Dot and the Wonder Workshop League competition. So we've been working on that for a couple of months now, and students get into small groups and they have to program the robots to go through these different mazes and create their own code for it, which is super exciting. And that'll extend until the contest is over, which is in March, or competition is over. And then what's really great is that teachers, when they see the power of the Hour of Code and the math integration within that, our geometry units come at the end of the year. And so they come back to using Scratch and things like that and having students do the XY grid as their background and then draw a triangle and work with angles and be able to explain what they're doing, which is super just great to see.
Well, I'm going to jump in. The activities for code.org, Hour of Code, has really revolutionized not only myself, but it's revolutionized my school. We're actually now a designated STEM school. So our STEM teacher, Mrs. Fidjakowski, has all these things from Spheros. She has the EV4, it's EV3s, robots. She's doing all this stuff. So it's now gone from me winning Spheros with the Hour of Code 4 years ago to now my entire school is doing a lot of the projects Tara just talked about with Sphero. We ordered a lot of Spheros now in Broward County schools, in classrooms. So it's just very exciting to see what's happening here in Broward County with beyond Hour of Code. And I think we had 100% participation in Broward County, and now a lot of the schools are doing more about it with their robotics activities. So it's exciting.
That sounds awesome. So speaking of Spheros, that's something I kind of wanted to talk about a little bit in relation to this question. After we do our Hour of Code and hour plus actually. I get my students into they're called 20-hour courses on code.org, and they have a fantastic system to keep track of where the kids have been through and the lessons they finished and whatnot. But after that, I feel like we needed to transition into something else where they could get their hands on something and put their coding into practice. So our school theme last year was Go for the Gold because of the Olympics happening. And so what I decided to do is I designed a unit where we would combine aspects of the Olympics with coding, and we use Spheros to do an opening ceremony like the Olympic Games, and the kids had to choose a country and research a little bit about that country, and then they designed a paper doll where they had to color it in how the athletes would be dressed as they walk in the opening ceremony, and then we attached that to like a 16-ounce beverage cup, which goes right over the top of the Sphero. So when the Sphero rolls, it looks like the doll is moving. And then I had them taped out a track on my floor in my classroom, which is fantastically, wonderfully large. And so we had like a 10-foot by 6-foot rectangle in the classroom, and they had to code the Sphero to walk around it once. So they had to choose speed and direction. And then our next event was a mile run, which if you know, if you run on a track, 4 times around is a mile. So they had to code their Sphero to go around that track 4 times as fast as they could. And we timed every pair of students, and then the students who got their Sphero around in the fastest time, we 3D printed some medals for them. So that was pretty exciting. They loved the activity, and it took a lot of time, but they're still talking about it. So that shows me as the teacher that it was really impactful and that they learned a lot about it.
Wow, that sounds really awesome.
I do have I can tweet out the plans for that. I did a whole unit plan and everything. I can tweet that out, and anybody can take it and use it if they like it.
Yes, I think people would love it. You guys have a lot of technology. I'm very excited for that. Being a former tech coach, in my K-12 district, we did not have all the bells and whistles, and I worked with teachers in integrating the concepts of coding, like the if-then statements and just the basics of command prompts into just their basic classroom starting at pre-K, just so the kids could get used to kind of just that concept. And because we didn't really have like all the different things, they had options. So it's awesome seeing all of you guys, like all of y'all doing this, extending beyond. There's a lot of conversation right now about going beyond the 1 hour, and is 1 hour really enough for hour of code? Yeah, I see him. No, it's not. It is not enough. We had a question from the audience. We have Ronnie Blanton. I hope I'm saying your name right, Ronnie, and he is watching live now on YouTube. And he is he's an adult education at the U.S. Department of State, preparing diplomats for their jobs abroad. And he asked, how common is hour of code and what we're doing throughout the U.S.? How common is it in the U.S.? Would anyone like to speak on that?
Like, how common is it in the U.S. or how common is it abroad?
Well, he asked in the U.S. You could probably go from the abroad standpoint. We're pretty U.S. focused here. You could go abroad if you'd like.
Okay, because I'm just thinking Department of State, doesn't that? Okay, anyhow, it's pretty common. Like every year, Code.org publishes their stats in terms of how many participants they have, and their marketing campaign is like amazing. It's a nonprofit. Like, you know, all they get out of it is empowering kids to learn how to code, right? And to fill those like needed job gaps that currently exist. So I would say it's pretty common, especially if you're in a large district where at the district level they're promoting such a thing.
I'm going to jump in. 3 years ago, my school is very international, particularly from the Caribbean and South America. And partnership with the United States, I think, is very important for South American and Caribbean countries. And so we had a group of administrators and teachers come to my school from Brazil, from Venezuela, from Argentina, and we have one soon coming from Jamaica and the Bahamas, who are partnering with our resources, and we're sharing the Hour of Code activities and beyond. So I think the United States is doing a great job of promoting it, because a lot of our neighbors in South America, Central America, and the Caribbean are really looking at us as a model. And it's exciting because we are building those partnerships with Hour of Code, just something simple like that.
Yes, and I agree. I think it is becoming, especially compared to 3 and 5 years ago, it is becoming much more US and even worldwide. I still think it's not being done in every classroom. It's the districts that do mandate it, you can definitely see it. And I think that I also see that teachers just do the same activities year after year. And with students, when you're having students do it year after year after year after year, you kind of have to expand and grow. And I'll see 9th graders in the in level 2, which, if they've never been exposed, it's a great starting point. I usually start never exposed teachers in that point, but by 9th grade in a district that mandates it, you would hope that the students would be allowed to go beyond that and get something harder. And I see Tara shaking her head. Yes, yes. And this leads very nicely into our last question. And we're still taking questions on Twitter and the YouTube chat. So if you have questions and you're listening out there, this is for live, please ask, and we will ask our panel. So just a little, before we start that, Hour of Code, and it aligns with Computer Science Education Week for those that are new to this idea or new to this concept. And this year it is December 4th through the 10th. And it's held in honor or recognition of the computing pioneer Admiral Grace Murray Hopper, whose birthday is December 9th, and she was born in 1906. And you can find more information on code.org. They have a lot of history on why Computer Science Education Week and Hour Code is during that, but just to give a shout out on when it is. And I was in a district that mandated it in a state, the whole state mandated it. And it was told, you must do an Hour Code. They actually had, they used to do like drop everything and read. They had stop everything in code for 1 hour on like whatever day of the week they chose for that week. They did that for 2 years. And I'm a music teacher, K-12. I see my kids for 45 minutes. So that was the only time that week that I saw that class. And I could not stop my entire curriculum to code. So I figured out how to kind of integrate it into what we were learning. And so which ties into our last question, which is, how could you integrate coding into your classroom curriculum and not just do the stop and code? And that really leads to that going beyond that 1 hour of like, how can you, that integration concept of like the math, like Rachel was saying. So what ideas do you guys have for that?
So world language, super huge. Can I screen share? Yeah? Okay, cool. I've got a lot of tabs open. It'll be fine though. So this is what the Hour of Code, like what the Anna and Elsa program looks like. But something that people don't realize is that down in the bottom left-hand corner here, there's this thing where you can switch languages. And when you switch languages, you just wait for it to refresh, takes a second. Okay, maybe like 10 seconds. And the blocks actually switch their language as well. So not only are you leveraging like the computational thinking aspect, the coding aspect, but you're also, as the student, understanding like the translation between English and whatever other language, and you're getting your program to work. I'll do this one like super fast. Right? And so they're like understanding, and they're building this vocabulary, literally like a coding vocabulary and a foreign language vocabulary.
And that's very helpful too, if the student puts it in a different language, that you know how to put it back.
One of the things that we talked about when I was working with some of these other teachers was integrating in the realm of science education. For instance, in, what is it, 3rd grade, when you're talking about plants, working in Scratch to show how a plant grows, or the different parts of a plant. As we moved into middle school, we talked about how you could build a program to help you identify different rocks and minerals. So a lot of these were using Scratch as a platform because it is more flexible and you can get it to do what you want. So any kind of any kind of if-then statement, helping kids think in that logical progression is going to be super. Any subject that you do that in, you can do something with coding.
I teach by day besides 5th grade. I do ELA. So a lot of times I will pull articles from Newsela and Newsela, if you're not familiar with it, and we'll do an opinion prompt and get the students to write, to read, to bring that reading, writing connection. Sometimes I'll put in a little social studies, and we'll have debates whether girls can code better than boys, and just all kind of fun and exciting things. And what I'm really excited about as an ELA teacher, there are lots of books now out, fiction books and nonfiction books about coding. 3 years ago, you could go into Barnes and Nobles or Scholastic book fairs and you would find nothing. Now, the publishers have embraced Hour of Code, and now they're writing fiction pieces and nonfiction pieces. And I have a daughter, Sarah already knows, who loves to code, and so it's exciting. She can go into Barnes and Nobles. I can get my previously 4th graders, but now 5th graders excited they can get books about coding that is on their interest level, that they can read for fun, beyond Hour of Code. So it's this is an exciting time to do lots of activities outside of the Hour of Code. And as a reading and writing teacher, I'm really excited because the opportunities for persuasive and expository writing pieces are just abundant now, whereas 3 and 4 years ago, they were scarce.
I completely agree with you guys. I like what you said. I started as a music teacher, I started working with other visual and performing arts teachers in my district in integrating Hour of Code because we were all in the same boat. We didn't see the kids enough. And that's where I started really getting into that integration concept. The one thing I think Rachel was talking about, like the if-then statements and how they can really be translated to everything. If-then statements on music are call and response. If I do this, then you do this. Most teachers have a clap like tut, 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 and the students respond typically with the same clap. That's an if-then statement. You're coding in your classroom, and that's what I teach with the pre-K teachers. You can do coding in that manner where it's not so much the click and drag. Everybody has to be on a computer, but you can integrate those kind of concepts from day one in your classroom, that if I say this, then you respond that, and that is that's those if-then statements. And so in my classroom, it just happened to fall every year near the Christmas concert. So we always had to sing, or the winter concert, we always had to sing. But it also fell when we started picking up instruments and African drums. So I started doing coding with African drumming, and the students would have to make their own if-then statements. But then they would start creating other rhythms, and we would have to listen. We were the computers and had to listen for that if statement to respond with the then. And so it really went beyond just like, oh, here's my clap, but I'm going to do a lot of other things. And when I get back to that original clap, then you have to respond. And so getting more into that, we talk about that computing. I think Anna Jeanette talked about social studies, or maybe it was Rachel, I can't remember. My 5th grade social studies teacher and I think it was last year, she does westward expansion in South Carolina, and they're doing westward expansion, and we created a coding westward expansion game where the students had to create kind of their own thing, and where like the major issues that came up, like the river, they had to cross the river, and there were snakes, and there was all these things that came up across. It's kind of like an Oregon Trail, that we did it with paper and pencil because we didn't have reliable devices. They had to create kind of like game pieces for it and arrows, and they had to figure out how to get themselves across, and all of a sudden they'd get a new thing and they'd have to figure out how to like code their way out of it using the pieces they had. And so we just created this like kind of like this paper game, and they had to figure out how to get across and what applied and how. I mean, it was a lot of work, but it was really cool to see them kind of adding that concept into that curriculum. We had did anyone else want to say anything before I flip? Yes, no? Okay, everyone's, no. We had a question on the YouTube from Regina Schaefer. She asked, what specific steps would you all recommend for schools and districts to follow in order to build our code like more district wide, so it grows and expands and you're not just doing the same thing? Oh, so growing, probably, I think Regina means growing it not only district wide, but also growing so the students aren't doing the same thing year after year. What do you all suggest?
I'll jump in since nobody else is. I think, well, for me, it's a little different because I come from a small district. In our building, we have pre-K through 12, and we have about 650 students, and that's our district as well as our school. So basically, I am the one that does the hour of code with the kids, and if other teachers want to do that, I can help them with that. But I think the benefit of this becoming more and more popular is the fact that there are more and more tools that are coming out too. So if you look at the Hour of Code website, there are so many different activities that the kids can choose from, or teachers can choose from. So hourofcode.com/learn, I think it is. And you can sort by what devices you have, whether you have laptops or tablets, whether you have pre-readers or middle grades or upper grades or high school. There's, like, you can sort all these activities by what you have available to you. And I think because of that fact, there are tons of opportunities not to overlap things year after year.
I completely agree. I used to go, to jump off yours, so to help with Regina, sorry, I was reading too, help with Regina's, I would go in, and a lot of the students, we were a very transient district, so they would move, so we were a very large district as well, so they would move school to school, so they would do one activity at one school, come to the next year to that school, oh, I've already done that, I heard that a lot, and I moved school to school. So I would come armed. I had a set of iPads I could take with me, so I did have devices to bring in, and I made these sheets that had, I don't have one in front of me, or I don't know where it is on the computer, with different QR codes with different games, so that if they had already done that game, they could choose another game. And I always allowed all the students a chance to choose. They had to hit a certain level. Like if we did the second game, they had to get to level 8 before they could choose their own. They had to show me or the teacher level 8 that they completed it to be able to choose their own game, because that got to the repeat block. And that's a really important block for students to know before they just jump into any game, because we didn't want to have to feed them through everything. But that really helped. That wasn't an organized way to do it at the district level, but that helped me coming into different things.
To the person who put out on YouTube, I'm going to invite you to, on Twitter, if you have a Twitter handle, her name is Dr. Lisa Malenkovic at Sleuth Academy. She's our district facilitator for Broward County Schools, and she has a plethora of resources. So if you're trying to make sure your school or district doesn't do the same thing, definitely reach out to her on Twitter. She has a plethora of resources, and it really helps all of our schools here in Broward County stay organized so that just like you said, when you come from one school to another, you're not doing the same activity.
Well, and then also like in the tech department, like in general, just tracking like what's going on, right? Like from year to year is super smart, and using things like Seesaw and different systems like that, where it's like, oh, well, here's an example, and then here's how we can extend on that. And then also like every student doesn't have to do the same thing, even within a class, right? So having it where it's more of the choose your own adventure, like you were talking about earlier, and getting that student voice into it and linking the coding to something that maybe they're passionate about for the hour and beyond in a really big way.
Awesome. I've been looking. I don't know if we have any other questions. Thank you, Rachel, for spelling out the URL. I didn't realize we couldn't put it in the YouTube chat. I was like, keeps bouncing back. It's hourofcode.com/learn, has all the different games. And I like Tara's suggestion of kind of doing like a shared, like, these are what we did last year, these are what we did this year. Kind of like Seesaw space where you can, collaborative space for the district to be in. And you can use any platform that you use within your district. Create a group and have everyone join. It's pretty easy. Do any of you guys have any last minute suggestions or activities or shout outs?
I think Tara was going to talk about her book, right?
I can do that as a really quick shout out. So thank you, Rachel. So I've written a book on achieving gender equity and teaching coding, and what it's about. Like, we've got this whole like girls who code movement and empowering girls, and you know, there aren't really any books out there for educators specifically in terms of how to do this and how to ensure that the bias is taken out of like the way that we teach and the way that we look at technology integration and coding in particular when it comes to students. So I've written a book which will be published this spring, February, March, and I've started a Kickstarter campaign to help with the fundraising to actually get the book published, because editing is very expensive. So the link is there, and then it's also on my Twitter page.
Tara, you are right on point. I see it all the time. And so being a member of Black Girls Code, which is a global unit to bring that gender equity, I'm really excited to be a member. My daughter is active, and you're spot on. We have to bridge the gap with girls and minorities. And so I'm with Black Girls Code and also Latinas in STEM here in Broward County, so that we can really begin to bridge that gap, because the disparities, if we don't do it as educators, it's just going to continue to widen as these young people get older. So I'm looking forward to getting your book. And yes, you're right on, spot on.
I was trying to quickly find the Computer Science Education Week, which is csedweek.org, has some stats on girls in coding. And I was trying to quickly pull it, and I can't find it. And why it needs to be equal. And I think Tara, like and Jeanette said, she was right on point with it, and it's out there. That there's a bunch of infographics out there. I just can't put my hands on them right this second. If any of you guys can, you can share. Are there any other? Oh, I just closed my Twitter. Are there any other questions out there in our YouTube or Twitter or facilitators or panelists? All right. Well, Sarah, do you want to ask the spicy challenge?
Sure, absolutely. So thank you so much. Wanted to really thank Irene for moderating a fantastic conversation. Thanks so much, and Jeanette, Rachel, and Tara for contributing and sharing your great insights. So as you all know, we've been doing these EduMatch extended learning opportunities where you can come on and just kind of share your learning with your PLN. So whatever you submit, it might inspire someone else. So definitely we encourage you all to join us. So the link is badgelist.com/edumatch. So I'm going to share my screen right now. All right, so hopefully y'all can see it's probably the vortex right now. Okay, so once you go there, then it's going to take you to here, and you'll be able to filter by topic. So this week is Hour of Code. So we will have 3 badges. So the first one that you can earn is the mild badge. And with this one, all you have to do is tweet 3 of your tweets pertaining to Hour of Code using also the hashtag EduMatch. So if you weren't watching it live, then no worries. You can still do it on your time, but definitely include 3 of your tweets so that we can learn from you and with you. The second one is to go here to our Flipgrid. So you'll see the link to the Flipgrid post. So you just record your Flipgrid and then post the link on here. And the third one, the spicy challenge, is to highlight your students, with permission, of course, participating in coding activities through a blog post, video, or other means. And if they go beyond an hour or they're integrated into your content, then share that as well and what your students are doing. So post it here. Also tag Irene, so her Twitter handle is there, and hashtag EduMatch. So with that, you will earn the spicy badge. And when you share it, then we can learn along with you. So let me stop sharing my screen and come back. And I wanted to thank everyone again for participating with us. Thanks to everyone who is on YouTube Live and on Twitter. Thanks to everyone who is on screen. You guys are awesome. So this podcast will be available within the next coming weeks on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, wherever you get your podcast. So come back and join us on Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. We are going to have a special EduMatch episode featuring Amanda Rogers, and she is a contributing author to EduMatch Snapshot in Education 2017, which will be released at the end of next month. We will also have AJ Bianco on Wednesday at 7:30 Eastern, so check him out. He is also a contributing author. Also, Tara, who is on panel, is a contributing author. She has a great chapter in there as well. And Rachel, I know you were part of it last year as well. So, yep. And hopefully we'll get the other 2 ladies to join us for the 2018 edition. So that would be awesome. And also anyone else who might be watching who's interested in doing so. So that's about it on this end. So everyone have a fantastic week, and we will see you soon.